Hello, everybody. It is me, Game Penguin 21, and today, well, looks like it's just about that time to talk about the new PlayStation Fanboy Crash Out, and this actually ends up with them talking about a fair bit in terms of, well, them actually talking about playing games. Or, well, them focusing more on gaming, I guess, as a whole, rather than just hardware sales. Now, this has been interpreted a number of different ways, but the official quote seems to be from them trying to remain as trying to appeal to their guys as possible, but trying to say, like, we might pivot if that were the case, so kind of pussyfooting around the issue. Now, the actual problem that a lot of, at least PlayStation guys and in general other people are having with this is, generally speaking, that they do not like the fact that this is happening. So, yeah. Overall, this is just going to be a fun thing to talk about, but of course we have a little bit of a small update regarding JTech TV, but not really huge, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. With that being said, I think that we're about ready to talk this out. But if you like what it is I do and support me in other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, which are always enough, links down to everything in the description below. Please do all that good stuff to help me do what I love to do with this game. Now, with that being said, let's get started. Of course, starting off with JTech TV. Saying that he's still hurting, got Gara the Rage, where the PS vlog here, where the do you believe all games should be on all platforms? Let me agree that all games should be on all platforms, practically, pretty much. And the way that JTech did it in this context and, made the whole poll on his channel, you can go and watch Gara or whoever covered that, and maybe Klutzy covered that as well, to really talk about this. But essentially, JTech made a poll on his community notion where he was talking about and said that he laid a trap for PC gamers and stuff like that, where essentially he listed off a bunch of different games onto a bunch of different platforms that weren't necessarily native to their own, with one being the one that was exclusive to the one platform. But here's the deal, and here's one of, if not the biggest problems with that. If you're going to make a poll like that, just say, do you prefer if consoles should be exclusive to one platform or prefer if consoles should have games to access to all gaming libraries? It really just doesn't matter. And again, that's just kind of really dumb. I also really am hating the whole AI generated stuff here, especially with like the PS log here. It's just really dumb. But moving on more again to the actual statements that were being done here. Now, Genki, at the very bottom of this screenshot here, I'll just zoom in really quickly, said the following, that the Sony Senior Vice President, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm not even going to try, says they are gradually shifting their gaming business from a hardware-centric business to a community and engagement-based platform business model. Again, this is a generalized statement of that, where they're not going to be focusing so much on the hardware sales, or at least it's what they're alluding to, and focusing more on building a community of loyal people who will buy their products, which, again, is pretty of a good, solid business move, considering that that's where a lot of the stuff has been going. But King Thrash here, and most of the other PlayStation fanboys in this current predicament, are going to be trying to say that, well, the translation of this is that their games and the IPs they own will expand on more than hardware, meaning movies like Uncharted, shows like The Last of Us, music like Horizon and The Last of Us, and anime like GOT. Okay. These IPs will help new services owned by them, but I'm gonna let y'all act like y'all act with an eating apple emoji, an eating apple gif. Now, if you don't know about King Thrash, apparently this eating apple gif means something. As far as I can tell, it means that, Sony be eaten, essentially. And, well, I've completely hated this entire GIF because of the sheer fact that he just continuously uses it over and over and over again, saying like, oh yeah, it's a good inside joke if you know what it is that's happening here. Well, here's the deal. Again, if that were the case and that they were expanding to, quote, making movies, shows, and music and stuff like was listed off here, why are they bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox in that context then? Why are they bringing some of their GAS games, or at least talking about bringing some of their GAAS games over to Xbox and other platforms? Why are they porting over to PC and aggressively starting to do that even more so? I mean, again, you can say that they're going to be, quote, making movies, shows, and stuff, and that they're going to be focusing on that. No, I think that Sony as a whole might be doing that as one way because, Sony owns multiple different fronts on multiple different, entertainment values. But we're talking specifically about PlayStation and specifically the vice president and the business for, that their hardware needs to be kind of moved away from a little bit and focusing more on building an actual community of consumers who would want to consume the product. At least that's what they seem to be talking about here. Again, that's just more of my interpretation, but you're okay to be wrong in that context. Now, Gene Park here kind of to do a little deviation for this says, looks sick. I wish this was a new game to match this energy where they are talking about Twisted Metal this was just a little side thing that I managed to find, where they then get retweeted by the, I believe, Fumed developer. Yes, Martin, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, Mr. Takowaski. I'm very sorry. But they have Fumes, and if you haven't played Fumes, I did like a little mini review on the thing during like the Steam Next Fest. Fumes was a very solid kind of thrasher type game that very, very much so kind of looks like a PS2 or PS1 version of what a modern, say, Twisted Metal game would be like. And that's just a very high compliment because, again, it's a very fun game, and I would definitely recommend it to that. And it got to the point where, Combos Kills says, at PlayStation, we need this on console. And what was that about PS guys never port begging for games? Gee, you wonder why we make fun of you sometimes. But getting back on track here, Astro Cyborg talking about, well, how, Dreamcast guy finally gives the rip to the PS5/PS6, Sony giving up on consoles, finally, after many a time of Dreamcast guy, essentially saying that Xbox is dead. Now we've got the rip PS5 stuff, but at the same time, this probably is just for the clickbait title. Haven't actually seen the video, but, finally got a rip PS5 in the thumbnail of a Dreamcast guy video. Let's fucking go. So, yeah. Next up here, we have a very interesting Nib crash out. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail, as Nib usually tends to write essays, and I do not like to read essays unless I'm reading an article, which, in that context, I'm usually reading just the article. But for this, here is what, a sense that Nib kind of seems to be talking about here. So, the states are the source of Nixies as the information of him and PlayStation games. They will be going on PC 6 months in the future instead of the typical 2 years. If true, this is so close to the PS5 release, it may start to cannibalize console hardware market share and sales in the place of the PC, the way Xbox has seen. Now, again, one of the interesting things here is that a lot of people say, oh yes, it cannibalizes sales. Well, while that might be true in one way, shape, or form, maybe, if that, there are times when, I'm on PC and I stepped away from consoles and never bought another one after that because, the console was my entry point to gaming as a whole. But the same thing ended up happening for, me being on the fence about specific other consoles. Like, again, my Steam Deck completely subverted the fact that I wanted a Switch because I just wanted the form factor of a Switch with the, things of a PC because I didn't want to give up my PC stuff. But that's just me, buying to my preferences. It's almost like people have preferences when it comes to buying specific things. It will also likely, oh boy, curb the incentive for PC gamers to buy secondary PS5 or PS6 system if they get tired of waiting for tentpole PS5 releases, which PS5 execs tell us takes place. I mean, again, they can say that all they want, but unsure. The window would be so short. Wonder if this much closer candidates will maintain exclusives being designed from the ground up solely for PlayStation consoles and only later ported to PC. Either way, I feel this could potentially be a strategy error on PlayStation's part. We shall see. Now, again, that's a whole lot of fluff and nonsense to say. I don't think that I agree with them trying to make more money and trying to appeal to more people who want to actively buy our games or whatever. They need to buy the PlayStation hardware, despite the fact that the executive of it has said, well, we don't really want to focus on hardware anymore because of, the specific reasons stated. But more importantly than that, scrolling down to the comments here, I found a couple that I wanted to highlight here, with Kareem basically coming in here saying, thorough assessment, oh boy, and the way things were going, this was pretty obvious it's going to happen. I don't mind at all. I feel like I don't need consoles anymore. Xbox trained me for this. Laughing, crying emoji. Unsure if that's a Schulte response more specifically, but quite honestly, that's just kind of really weird to talk about. But Nib then says, if this does happen, I genuinely might build a super high-end gaming rig, call it a day, 1 to 2 year exclusives. 1 to 2 year wait is excessive, but 6 months isn't too bad as long as the ports are well done. Oh boy. I find it really interesting how he says, like, oh yeah, 1 to 2 years to wait for, an exclusive is quote unquote excessive, but 6 months, no, that's not excessive. I personally think that that's a bit more rushed than anything, saying that, 6 months of a wait for it would be just real weird. And again, that might be closer and closer and closer, and there might be day and date eventually, because again, there has already been PlayStation games going day and date to specific places on PC, but that's just me. But I find it really funny how, cutting the time in half from 1 to 2 years to 6 months basically means like, yeah, I would build a PC for that. I mean, again, that's just kind of your opinion. I just find it really funny how, waiting 1 to 2 years, no, that's way too far to try to get back on your backlog or to buy other, smaller titles that you might want to do. But 6 months, oh no, that's the spot where I'm like, maybe let's actually do this. That person you love to hate also ended up replying to this Nib tweet here with a, I'ma keep it a stack. This ain't strategy, it's a fucking whiplash. Last year, PlayStation explicitly said that live service games go day and date to PC and single player won't. Then Spider-Man 2 hit PC 15 months after PS5. Now Helldivers 2 is headed to Xbox this month because PlayStation pushed it. I mean, yeah, okay, cool. So if Seeds is right, then they're shortening the PC release window to 6 months. That's a bait and switch on the people that sold a console. On the people they sold a console identity to, not some master plan. It's some fucking exclusivity sermon. Now, new bullshit. Every quarter, I guess. But you get too tired of these MFers moving goalposts and carrying and calling it vision. I mean, again, while you, PlayStation fanboys, might move the goalpost quite a lot, actually, because, you have been saying, oh, they'll never go and port games over to the PC. Oh, they'll just port games over later. Oh, it's never going to be single-player games. Oh, it's never going to come into Xbox. Oh, we're going to have console exclusivity forever and ever and ever. You guys have been proven wrong the entire time that you've been trying to yap about these things. You do not know PlayStation's stuff, and you do not know how the executives think or what the numbers even say, because we even give you the numbers, and you're like, oh, well, those numbers are fake. So, it's kind of a big deal that this is kind of happening in the first place, I guess. And at the same time, it was pretty much inevitable because, well, what kind of architectural differences is there between the two systems? I know that people have said this in the previous system, but, whatever. Angel here says PlayStation won't match Xbox's sales rate despite PlayStation games reaching PC faster. I don't even know if that's, an Xbox sales rate. I don't even know if they post those rates for things or anything like that. It's very strange. But I mean, I guess Xbox games have been doing some pretty decent numbers, but I wouldn't know as I've not kept up on that one. So I'm just going to half trust Angel with a grain of salt here and just move on from there. Another one being Portal Rock 77. This is actually, it's a different tweet. It's not a reply to Nib's tweet saying PlayStation first-party game showing up on PC 6 months later doesn't mean it's timed exclusive. It means you're beta testing the game for PC players. Just saying. I mean, that was more or less a joke, but at the same time, that's kind of funny that you're paying for, more exclusive access for that, which I don't know. I just found this tweet a little bit funny, and this is Porter Rock 77 here, who kind of is coming off a bit salty, if you don't mind. Next up here, we have a PlayStation Lifestyle saying, no, Sony's statement doesn't say PlayStation is going multi-platform. And this is, a games journalism thing from the actual PlayStation side. And, this is an article from a PlayStation Lifestyle. I don't trust your opinion on this. This seems to be like, someone trying to cope with the fact that this is just happening right now. So, seems rather strange. But Barp here kind of coming in here with a very strange, one that I ultimately agree with, but has a very weird turn here, saying people conflating PlayStation's message and overlooking the nuance behind its strategy. So let's simplify. PlayStation Shift is about preserving its dominance while adapting to changing market. Xbox's Shift, on the other hand, was driven by survival and the need to reinvent itself. Consumers, in the end, will benefit from both. Again, I don't think that this is wrong. I, in fact, think that this is an okay and a very kind of astute statement of it. Now, do I think that Xbox needed to pivot because they were, needed to do survival and reinvent itself? I think that that's kind of the case, given that the Xbox One era basically whipped them into such a nasty-ass shape that, it's very hard to tell what Xbox anymore. But PlayStation is trying to preserve its market dominance because they realize that Xbox might, in the end, start to, actively not fight against them actively, but will start to overtake them by fighting more in a passive manner, and they thought that they would pull, say, a Nintendo and kind of shrink in size to that, but that doesn't seem to be happening. At least the numbers would suggest that. Again, that's more or less what might be happening, though, again, at the same time, I'm not going to say for certain, and this is all alleged and stuff. But ultimately, I do think that this is a very, very interesting and slightly nuanced take on the matter here, which is very cool. I think with that, though, with that nuanced take to kind of, But I think with that, we will end off today's video. That quite interestingly sums up the rest of the plays here, as, or Barp put it. So yeah, with all that being said, my name is GamePenguin21. If you like what it is I do, and if you want to be the other way, share, perform, other than like and subscribe, which always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. My streams every Sunday at around 12 p.m. EST, my time. Maybe I'll look to stream a bit more as I've been getting some more interesting live stream opportunities, and maybe doing a couple other things. We will see. But yeah, overall, that'll about do it for this episode of I Ranted to This Microphone for an obscenely long amount of time about PlayStation fanboys who clearly need some mental health adjustment. Peace. Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know.